Today, we're diving into one of the biggest economic experiments of our time, trying to use the power of the market to solve the climate crisis. And believe me, it's a trillion-dollar question with absolutely massive stakes for all of us.
I mean, that's the real heart of the problem, isn't it? How do you actually rewire a global economic system that has been built on fossil fuels for over a century? Well, a lot of people think the answer isn't just about passing laws, but about basic economics. It's about making it either way too expensive to pollute or, on the flip side, incredibly profitable not to.
And this really breaks down into two big ideas, two competing philosophies. First, you've got the stick. This is your classic polluters pays idea. You make it hurt, financially, to pollute. Then you've got the carrot. This is a whole different angle that tries to make saving the planet a profitable business by rewarding the good stuff. So, let's start with the big stick.
Now, the most famous and widely used stick policy in the world right now is what's called a cap-and-trade system. It's a mandatory, government-run tool that's designed to, literally, force emissions down over time.
So, what does that even mean? Well, picture this. A government decides on a strict, legally binding limit, that's the cap, on the total amount of pollution an entire industry can pump out. Then, it creates a set number of permits or allowances, where one allowance equals exactly 1 ton of CO2.
All right, let's just walk through how this works in practice. First, that firm cap on emissions gets set in stone. Then, the permits are given out to companies. Now, this is where the market part kicks in. Companies that get clean and cut their emissions have extra permits they can sell, and the companies that are polluting more, they have to buy them. But here's the most critical part, the real secret sauce. Over time, the government tightens that cap. They lower it. That makes the permits more and more scarce, which makes them more expensive, creating this really powerful financial push to innovate and invest in cleaner tech.
And you might be thinking, is this just some academic theory? Nope, not at all. As of today, 39 different governments, from countries to states and provinces, have put these systems in place, and together they cover almost a quarter of all global greenhouse gas emissions. This is a major, real-world policy. But, and this is a huge but, how you design these systems makes all the difference. Just look at the price gap here. In Europe's well-established market, a single ton of CO2 costs a company almost 77 euros. In China's newer system, it's just over 12 euros. That enormous difference means that European companies have a much, much bigger financial stick hitting them, pushing them to decarbonize way faster.
And the results? They really speak for themselves. The European Union's system, it's the oldest and biggest in the world, has driven a staggering 47% drop in emissions from the industries it covers since it started back in 2005. It's pretty clear proof that when you design the stick well, it can work. It can work really well.
Okay, so that's the big, regulated government stick. But there's another kind of market out there. It's a whole different beast. It's not mandatory, it's not run by governments, and yeah, it's been called the Wild West of climate finance, the voluntary carbon market. The key words here, the ones you really got to remember, are voluntary and unregulated. Unlike cap and trade, nobody is forcing anyone to do this. Companies choose to buy these things called carbon credits, and they usually do it so they can offset their own pollution and make claims like being carbon neutral. And on paper, the idea is actually pretty beautiful, right? You have projects all over the world, planting massive forests, improving how farms manage their soil, and they can literally pull carbon dioxide out of the air. That captured carbon is then measured, verified, and sold as a credit. 1 credit for 1 ton of CO2 removed. Simple. But, and you knew there was a but coming, the reality of these markets has been plagued with problems. Instead of being this pure force for good, the VCM has been hit with some really serious accusations. Everything from helping big companies greenwash their image to causing real, actual harm to people on the ground.
And look, we are not talking about small mistakes here. Researchers have documented incredibly severe impacts when these projects go wrong. We're talking about people being forced off their land, new conflicts breaking out over resources, and deals where local communities get almost none of the money being made from their own backyards. And very often, it's the most vulnerable and indigenous groups who are hit the hardest.
So you have to ask, how does this keep happening? Well, a huge part of the problem seems to be a fundamental flaw in the system itself. A lot of the organizations that are supposed to certify these credits, they don't actually require a serious, in-depth look at the potential social harms before a project gets the green light. It's a massive blind spot that can lead to absolutely devastating consequences.
Okay, so if the sticks have some serious problems, what about that carrot we talked about? Well, this brings us to a really radical new idea that basically flips the entire model on its head.
It's called the global carbon reward.
This is the core question, the big what if. It just reframes the whole problem. Forget about punishing the polluters for a second. What if we built a system that directly paid people and projects for actively reducing or removing carbon from the atmosphere?
Now, it's really important to get this straight. A carbon reward is not the same thing as a carbon credit. A credit, at the end of the day, is like a permission to pollute slip that a company buys to offset its own pollution. This new carbon reward idea, it's a totally new financial asset you get for proving you've reduced emissions. It completely avoids the whole idea of offsetting, which, in theory, gets rid of the greenwashing problem.
All right, so how on earth would this thing actually work? It's definitely ambitious. The idea is to create a new financial reward backed by governments to make it stable. Then central banks would step in and guarantee a minimum price for it, so investors would always know what it's worth. And this reward wouldn't be a loan you have to pay back, it would be a straight-up cash grant for any project that can prove it cut emissions. The whole point is to unlock trillions in private investment every year, all without adding a dime to public debt. It's a bold idea, for sure.
So we've got the mandatory government-run stick of cap and trade. We've got the troubled Wild West of voluntary credits. And we've got this radical new carrot proposal. Let's put them all side by side and see how they really stack up.
This table really lays it all out. You've got the big stick, cap and trade, which we know can work really well, but it can be a tough political fight to get it done. Then there's the other stick, the voluntary market, which has the potential to fund amazing projects but is just riddled with risks because it's unregulated. And finally, the carrot, the global carbon reward, which offers this incredible vision for funding the transition without greenwashing, but, it's still a very new and complex idea that would need a mind-boggling amount of global cooperation. Every single one of these has its own promise and its own peril.
So at the end of the day, that leaves us with the ultimate question. There probably isn't one single silver bullet here. The real challenge, the one we have to figure out, is what is the right combination of these powerful economic tools? What is the right mix of carrots and sticks that will finally be enough to win this trillion-dollar race against time?